He was just about their age, and he showed them a picture of him with Governor Graves. So we've got Caleb Zimmerman, Caleb Wave, Liam Sharples, and Evan Roberts. And they're here from J. Scheidler Elementary. They're sixth graders, and they're going to go up to the top of the dome later. So any of you are welcome to join them, 296 steps. But you're welcome. Yeah. All right, very good. We do have a very full day. We're going to have to limit the amount of time we have on our testimony today because we've got two hearings that are very important. So the very first hearing is going to be, I'm going to open the hearing on Senate Bill 282, and we're going to ask our reviser, Eileen, to give us a brief on this bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, committee. Madam Chair, I'm going to take your word brief to heart and make this a very quick overview of the bill since there are subject matter experts in the room who will testify. So Senate Bill 282 would establish the Kansas Retirement Investment and Savings Plan Act, or CRISP. The bill would enact 15 new sections of law and amend KSA 74-4920. CRISP would become effective on and after July 1st of 2027 and become the default retirement plan for new members. As you all have a copy of the bill brief that I provided in your folders, and as time is limited, I'm going to just provide, as I said, a quick overview. So Section 1 of the bill provides the citation to the Act and specifies to whom the Act is applicable. Section 2 is the definition section of the bill. Section 3 of the bill directs the board to establish the Kansas Retirement Investment and Savings Plan in accordance with the provisions of the bill, as well as the plan's ancillary components, including a deferred compensation plan and a qualified Roth contribution plan. The section also provides for the funding of the startup and administrative costs of the Act via a loan made from the PMIB and pursuant to certain requirements. Section 4 of the bill states that the legislature is permitted to prospectively change the statutory provisions governing the plan and expressly reserves the right to do so. Section 5 of the bill provides that an employee who is first employed by a participating employer on or after July 1st of 2027 may become a member of CRISP and establishes certain eligibility requirements for other employees. Section 6 of the bill states that the board shall accept, not accept, rollovers of contributions and the income on those contributions from other eligible retirement plans.
Eileen, we're going to stop you for a second. You may not have bill briefs in your folder if you're looking for them. So we will get those to you, though, pretty quickly. So you can continue. We've got the bill. But yeah, that's okay. It's online if you want to access it online. We just don't have the hard copy in your folder. So sorry. Go ahead.
I just, as an aside, I think I emailed this to Jackie at 2:30 this morning when I finished it. So
it's quite all right. I just didn't want people shuffling trying to find something that I know is not there.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Eileen.
Okay, Section 7 of the bill describes the requirements regarding member and employer contributions and the vesting of those monies. Section 8 of the bill describes a member's required contribution to the member's mandatory contribution account and the member's deferred compensation account. Section 9 of the bill requires the board to establish an investment policy structured to meet the plan's objectives. Section 10 of the bill establishes how, after termination of service, a plan member or the plan member's beneficiary may terminate plan membership and how to remove the plan member's vested account balance. Section 11 describes how, subject to provisions of the plan and after termination of service, a member may elect to leave the plan member's vested account balance in the plan and make application to select any distribution option provided by the plan document, including certain lifetime annuity options. Section 12 states that a plan member's beneficiary shall be determined as provided in the defined benefit plans regulations. Section 13 states that before termination of service, a plan member shall not receive a refund of any portion of the plan member's vested account balance. Section 14 states that a Kansas Retirement Investment and Savings Plan member shall be eligible for death and disability benefits as provided to members of the deferred benefit plan. Section 15 of the bill creates in the state treasury the Kansas Public Employees Retirement System defined contribution fund to be administered by the Kansas Public Employees Retirement System in accordance with the provisions of the bill. Section 16 of the bill amends KSA 74-4920 to require that on and after July 1st, 2027, the board shall certify a contribution rate required to amortize the unfunded actuarial liability of the defined benefit plan. Each participating employer shall appropriate and pay that contribution rate as applied to the total compensation of employees participating in CRISP and the defined benefit plan. And with that, Madam Chair, I can stand for really easy questions.
So we've got a lot of folks who are going to talk to us about this bill, but if anybody has a question of Eileen now, feel free to ask. Not, thank you, Eileen. Thank you. And we will get those hard copies of that brief to you. So our first piece of information is going to be given to us by Alan Conroy. Just a little bit of some additional information to help us clarify our understanding of what this is.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll be very brief, just provide some high-level thoughts. Of course, just remember there's two types of basic retirement plan: defined benefit like KPERS, defined contribution like a 401k, defined benefit plan, all the investment risk is with the employer. Defined contribution plan like a 401k, all the investment risk is with the member, and there's other attributes, but it really comes down, the key difference is who bears that investment risk. Is it the employer or is it the individual? Senate Bill 282, just to make clear, it doesn't apply to the Kansas Police and Fire retirement system, does not apply to the judge's retirement system. So it's just regular, KPERS, state, school, and local. This bill would allow new members, after a certain date in 2027, all new employees would be defaulted into the to the CRISP plan, as it's called, the defined contribution plan, but all those new members would have a one-time 30-day option to switch. If they don't want to go to the CRISP plan, they could change over to KPERS 3. And also then all existing KPERS members would also have a one-time 30-day option to, if they want to switch from where they are, KPERS, well, 1, 2, or 3, but probably more likely KPERS 3, into KPERS, into the CRISP plan. The employer would provide 4% employer contributions. There's some matching. There's the deferred. There's an additional voluntary contribution that members make, and the employer could match up to a total of 1% on that. So that employer contribution, if you assume people, that would max out. That would be a 5% contribution there on the employer side compared to the current employer contribution on the KPERS side. That, of course, it varies. Under the CRISP plan, all employer contributions, the members are invested with those, which means they could take them out if they leave service after 5 years. So the employer, about 5%. On the member contribution side, it'd be still 6%, like KPERS 1, 2, and 3. There'd be this voluntary, again, they could opt out of it if they don't want to. It's an auto-enroll, increase 1% each year, up to 10% over time. And of course, the member vests immediately in their own contributions and interest, kind of like the KPERS 457 plan, similar to that. The KPERS board would select the investment options, but the member makes the actual investment elections, and they can, when they get ready to retire, they could purchase annuity for a lifetime benefit through KPERS. Just on the cost, one important thing to remember is, of course, the large share of the KPERS employer contribution is to pay that unfunded actuarial liability. Almost 9% of that contribution goes to pay that unfunded actuarial liability. This plan, whether in CRISP, if they're in CRISP, the employers would still continue to make that roughly 9% contribution. So the UAL, unfunded actuarial liability, is being paid current plan, the new plan. The normal cost currently for new active people, so set aside the unfunded liability, is about 2.8%. So here in the CRIS plan, as I mentioned, could be at least 4, maybe up to 5. So those sort of annual employer contributions rates would be higher under the CRIS plan. But the important distinction there, I think, is CRIS, as being a 401k, it does not add to the unfunded actuarial liability. So wherever we're at, that's, on the regular CAPER side, the CRIS plan would not add any money, any costs to that unfunded actuarial liability. And so, anyway, there's I think it's on page 5 of my testimony, there's a little graph, though, and it's 30-year projection, and I'm sure you all probably appreciate the value of 30-year projections, but based on our actuary, the current CAPER's unfunded actuarial liability would be about $45 billion. The CRIS plan, depending on how many people elect into CRISP, new members and existing members, of course, that has an actuarial impact. As you can see, if you look on page 5, that CRISP unfunded actuarial liability is about $32 billion, down to about $24 billion. So certainly less there. And just my other, of course, to get the operating costs started, there'd probably have to be, we can't use trust fund money to start this other plan, so there'd have to be a loan of some type from the Pooled Money Investment Board, and it would be repaid with fees that the members would pay. Of course, some administrative costs, and then also we have to, of course, be aware, depending on how many people opt out of the CAPERS plan, what that might do to the CAPERS cash flow and how much cash we need to transfer that money, which can impact our investment design. So final thoughts, either plan works. It's who do you want to bear the investment risk, the employer or the member? The CRIS plan would be from the employer initially, it would be more expensive in those annual contributions, but it would not incur any additional growth in the unfunded actuarial liability.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Great explanation, and I think that's helped us to understand how that plan works. We do need to move right along and get our testimony in from our folks that are here. So I know that there's a lot of information that you're going to hear, so if we have time for questions, we will entertain those. So Senator Tyson, you are our first, welcome to committee. You are our first proponent, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and honorable committee members, and I'd like to thank Alan and all of the financial experts. You'll hear from a few of them today that have been helping with this. This is not something that happened overnight. In fact, this system, well, I'll just cut to the chase. So we did hear risk, but there is reward. So risk, reward. And so who do we want to put that reward with in the opportunity for a flexible investment plan that best suits each employee so that they can choose from themselves where they want to invest? Now, this was modeled after TSP, the Thrift Savings Plan. I worked on that system for years. It's a great system. It's very successful. In fact, they boast of their success because they have almost everybody that has the opportunity can and does participate in that plan. So this is a 401k with guardrails. So the risk, yes, with the investments, but the guardrails make it accounts that you're not going to be going out and investing in Bitcoin or something like that. But if you have a comfort zone for investing internationally, then you can choose the international fund or whatever fund best suits you. But what is really great about this is the Tier 3 employees. We've all heard what's going on with that system. It's a cash balance system, a hybrid of a 401k and defined benefit. But what it doesn't do is give the reward of a 401k type plan to the employees, that they can take, if they don't stay for, and we know a lot of teachers move on, so they can transfer the account. The money that has been invested, their money and all of the interest earned, they take with them. The other thing about this is they can choose a Roth option. You can't do that with CAPERS. So you have the opportunity to do that with this. It's like a 401k. The other thing that is really nice about this is if the employee runs into a hardship, they can take out a loan against their retirement plan. And that does happen for young families getting started. And then they pay back, just like a 401k would. Another advantage of this plan is, well, the fact that it just suits each individual employee gets to select. But one of the biggest items that we heard is the reward does go to the participant, but also the taxpayers in the long run. Because I included in my graph, Alan was so graciously to share that with me. So in my testimony, I include his 30-year chart also. And it is staggering to look at. We cannot continue to kick the can down the road. This can has been kicked, and the CAPERS participants in Tier 3 are starting to run out of road. We need to allow them to have an option. That's all this would do, is an option. There's no mandate that they choose. They can stay in CAPERS if they want, or they can choose a self-directed 401k with guardrails. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Tyson. Appreciate that, and very concise. We've only got a couple minutes for each conferee. We have Dennis Hull, State Affairs Coordinator, Americans for Tax Reform on WebEx. Do you see him, Brennan? Mr. Hull, can you hear us? Welcome to committee.
I can. Hopefully you can hear me as well.
Yes.
Thank you very much for having me.
Couple minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Moving to CAPERS to a defined contribution pension system is a fundamentally conservative reform that would benefit taxpayers, government workers, and, as Senator Tyson mentioned, the long-term solvency of the system as a whole. Taxpayers, of course, will come ahead in a number of ways. DC plans are objectively simpler and less expensive than the 20th century older DB model that Kansas still deploys today. If this bill is enacted, government will no longer be liable for achieving certain performance metrics within the new structure, so taxpayers aren't on the hook to compensate for a bad investment year, at least for the new DC hires. On top of that, your $9 billion in unfunded liabilities can be expected to stop growing and eventually begin to decline consistently, which would be going in the opposite direction of a place like Illinois, a state with 5 separate defined benefit systems. And that's one reason why their unfunded liability burden has doubled since 2010 to $140 billion. So this would make you guys the perennial opposite of that. And government workers would also see a number of benefits from this, mainly through the broad flexibility offered by 401k style defined contribution. I won't repeat what previous conferees have said, but the higher portability is huge here. And quite honestly, the CAPERS return in 2023 was 7.4%, and in 2024 was 9.7%. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I pulled these numbers from the state website. And if these dollars had just been in the S&P 500 index instead, without any special management or choices of where to put the stocks, just put them in that ETF, they would have averaged a yield of 20% on average across both years. And that would leave the CAPERS balance nearly triple what it is today if you had just done that. So I'm not arguing that these returns are guaranteed every year, but I believe it does strengthen the argument that workers ought to have some level of say in the composition of their nest egg, as most already do in the private sector. And I'll just close with the fact that 401ks have proven wildly popular in the private sector. We had 28% of private sector non-union workers in 1987 who were in a defined benefit plan, and today that figure is 10%. So I believe the reform before you today is the way to launch Kansas' system into the modern age, and so ATR hopes you'll make this bill a priority. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being online with us today. So those are the 2 oral proponents that we have listed on our agenda. We have some oral opponents. You just have a couple minutes or less each. The first is Ernie Claudel. Ernie?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First, I need to disclaim myself here. I am a member of the CAPERS board, but I do not represent or speak for them. I speak for myself and KCPR and CARSP. first I wanted to draw your attention to paragraph 3 in my written testimony. I've had questions about why the UAL is so large, and I readdressed that there, so I want to be sure and note that. And also, I detected an error, and near the end of it says the worst case scenario that you could receive with the Tier 3 would be 38%, and it's not, it's 33%, as compared to approximately 51% of our present program. My question, I'm not going to wander and try to answer all the information that I've heard so far I would disagree with, but I would say that talking to many people, including many legislators, that are real concerned about Tier 3. And the real concern about Tier 3 is retention and recruitment abilities, and particularly with the teaching profession. And so I can't understand how this would be a better situation, because you're taking away the guarantees that the CAPERS program does offer. For instance, if you would have retired on the 29th of this month, the Dow was over 44, and yesterday it was down to 41. So if you have no idea how much money you're going to have when you would retire under this proposed system. Also, if this is such a great program, I don't understand why KPNF and the judges and the correction officers have been left out of this. Also, besides undoing the guarantee, on the negative side of this, as far as the state is concerned, is I refer back to the Bardol commercial. Those of you old enough to know that, I know about that. That was if you bought this product and put it in your car regularly, it would save you money down the road for a possible overhaul. And so this is with 88% of approximately 80% of the retirees and beneficiaries remaining in Kansas, if they run out of money, which they don't know when they're going to die and how much money they're going to have in their investment, if they run out of money, it's going to fall on the state to help them, and that's where the pay me later comes. It's cheaper to invest in this up front with the employees than it is pay later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. Thank you. Our second opponent is Leah Flatter. Leah, are you in the room? There you are. Hi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be very brief. We certainly appreciate the potential positive of this new retirement system, but we are concerned that it may have an unintended consequence of maybe competing with CAPERS. So obviously, I'm not an expert on retirement benefits, so that would be our concern, is that in the current form, it's not clear to us that this wouldn't compete with CAPERS.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Third, we have Wendy Stark, League of Kansas Municipalities. Hey, Wendy. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm Wendy Stark with the League of Kansas Municipalities, and I just want to talk about a couple points. Pardon? Very quick. Couple points. The league has been actually 25 or about 25% of CAPERS members are local government, so we do play a key part in CAPERS. We have also been involved with CAPERS since its inception, so this is very important to us. Our members discuss this every year. One of the things that we're concerned about, recruitment and retention, and it is the league's position that this plan would severely hinder a city's ability to hire and retain qualified employees. Cities cannot compete with salaries paid by private entities. Total compensation, including retirement benefits, helps cities hire and retain qualified public employees that are essential to our local governments. A retirement plan that requires employees to put money in a defined contribution plan does not attract the type of essential employees we need. Another point I'd like to make is that our members have consistently held the position of preferring a defined benefits pension program, and that this would increase and additional administrative burden for cities. And if, just as you look at the informational memo that was handed out on page 2, it talks about risks, and the risks to employees are high, which is why we oppose this. Thank you.
I have Nate Glassy. Is that Nate? Yes. Are you Nate or Nick?
Nate.
Nate, thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I will go quick. My name is Nate Glassy from the National Tax Deferred Savings Association, or the NTSA. We have over 6,000 members across the country who all work with teachers and other educators across the country, quite a bit in the state as well. Senate Bill 282 has a lot of positive opportunities, but the following areas cause us concerns. Our concerns are really not around the meat of the bill about the DB to DC issues. The concerns come with some of the ancillary other areas. This bill would create an auto-enroll option without the necessary education and support from local advisors to help support teachers with that auto-enroll. It also would effectively eliminate educator choice as to where educators place their supplemental retirement assets. So although there would be choice in the DC portion of this, that supplemental area into the 457, 403B could eliminate that choice, removing educators' access to a trusted advisor of their choice for their supplemental retirement plan assets as well. So that's the third area. Trying to go quickly here, but I'd like to focus on 2 of these areas. In a recent survey of over 1,000 teachers across the country, it was found that over 90% of these teachers said that they want choice as to where to put their supplemental plans. They want to choose their 403B options, and this bill, as is written, would encourage everyone into a single vendor 457 option and lose that capability to contribute to the multiple vendor 403B plan. They still could do so because it doesn't eliminate the vendors, but with an encouragement of a match and an auto enroll would discourage participants from going outside to choose a vendor of their choice. We recently, the third thing was that the option for an advisor. We recently held our conference last weekend in Austin, Texas, and we had a superintendent come speak to us. He was going to speak to us about leadership. And as he started to speak to us, he came to our conference beforehand and learned what we were doing. And he said because of the care and support that we were providing to teachers, he changed his topic. And he talked about my guy, the guy who came and helped him contribute to his 403B plan. Could have just sold him a product and left and been gone, but instead that guy came in and helped him get $170,000 in student loans forgiven. So without the access to my guy, to an advisor, that support, we would lose that opportunity to have someone help these educators and these teachers. So giving an auto-enroll and a match into the 457 and not doing so into the 403B would eliminate that access to those advisors who are great support to the teachers across the country and especially in the great state of Kansas. So that is our opposition on the bill. Glad to discuss more along the way and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have 2, that's the end of the oral opponents. We have 2 oral neutral who have like a minute each, and they're on WebEx. Brandon Converse, are you with us, Brandon?
Yes, I am.
I'll give you about a minute here. We're a little short on time.
Sounds
Hit
good.
your
Well,
high points.
Madam Chair, I think, reason for support, I'm going to echo, there's so many things, great points already been made. The flexibility, portability, when we're looking at this from a client standpoint, the CAPERS program today, it's set up for them, and many of them don't understand how they work, how to take out those benefits, and also the tax impact. I think with a defined contribution type of a plan, gives them that increased portability option, but also the Roth contribution for many employees from the state and the local level, where Roth really does make sense for them today and also long term. In the private sector, we do see many pension plans being shut down. And because it is that unfunded liability, a lot of these businesses, they're trying to shut those down because of those overall concerns, which obviously has just been spoken about many times already through the state. That is something where change needs to be made. It's no different than what we've heard with our Social Security system. Things need to be happening now in order for all of us Americans and those of us here in Kansas to be able to make the best changes for us longer term. The opportunity, we've talked about the education piece. One of my roles as an advisor is that education, big in the defined contribution and defined benefit But I'm hoping that this crisp type of a plan gives that to the employees to be able to have access to an advisor, talk them through what choices make sense, and to help them longer term with what they're trying to do for themselves and their beneficiaries. The concerns, I do have concerns with the redundancy of policy. I don't know that having two options is a good thing for the employees without proper education. If it gets very difficult understanding Roth, understanding pre-tax, how do I pick investments? And then also, well, do I pick CRISP or capers? So the state's going to have a lot to do in front of them to make sure that these employees are educated on what makes sense for them, and making sure that they're doing the right thing. Because not only picking that plan, but then also with that only a 30-day rollover window, how does that impact them? Are they making the right decisions? So we really, from a concern standpoint, need to get ahead of how do we educate them. I know there's a lot of dollars associated with hiring and staffing up to be able to educate, but I know, and I'm sure many of us here on this committee education is going to be key, and it's just sometimes it's a little bit lackluster on getting that impacted all the way down to the participant level.
Thank you. Thank you, Zachary. Appreciate it. Our next neutral is Zachary Christensen. I said Brandon. Is it? No, that was Zachary. Yes? That was Brandon. I'm confused. Thank you, Brandon. Sorry. Zachary, is he on WebEx?
Hello. Yeah, I'm here.
You have 1 minute, and if you have any fresh viewpoints, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll try not to retread some of the stuff covered already. Thank you, Madam Chair, and the committee. Zachary Christensen is my name. I'm a managing director of the Pension Integrity Project at Reason Foundation. We offer pro bono consulting on technical issues, and in particular pension and retirement plan issues like this. We've helped with over 100 reforms in a bunch of different states. So naturally, we've seen a lot of plans very similar to this one in other states as well. I would like to just share that offering a choice, an optional DC plan like this bill proposes, is a great approach. It offers more flexibility to public workers, and it actually can be advantageous to the majority of new hires. A trend that around the country government employers are seeing is that employees are less likely to stick around as long as they used to be in previous generations right now. In fact, most state-run public pension plans have the vast majority of their workers, they expect the vast majority of their workers to leave within 10 to 15 years. And it takes a lot longer than that for a pension plan to be advantageous. So this would actually be a better retirement plan as far as the benefits accrued during the time that they work. It would be a better retirement plan for the vast majority of new workers. So that calls about recruitment and retention can be it's important to understand that this would actually be a better plan. The DC option would be better for a lot of new hires. And again, it's just an option. So giving that flexibility just allows the Kansas retirement plan to be able to just fit more people. On the subject of risk and cost, it was mentioned earlier that this bill would significantly slow the growth of the state's pension liabilities. So we're seeing we're seing actuarial analysis saying that it could reduce the liability by as much as $20 billion over the next 30 years, which is that's a huge advantage to this type of bill. As far as cost goes, I would advise that it's important to understand that when you're comparing the employer cost of a DC plan to a DB plan, there are some differences that you should be aware of. If you're just comparing the normal cost of the pension plan to the employer contribution of the DC plan, you can be missing the potential costs that come from unfunded liabilities. For example, the normal cost of the pension plan right now would be, I think it's 2.9 or around that range. But with unfunded liability costs applied, it's well over 11 on average, I believe, for the plan. So it would actually end up most likely end up saving the state a lot of money. And then
Zachary, you're going to have to close.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you. So committee, we've had a lot of testimony today. You've got written testimony in your folder from Tim Graham and Sarah LaFrance. And what I would say to you is we need to take a deeper dive into this. I only have you down as written. I am so sorry. And we have got to close this hearing. So we'll make sure that everybody's got your testimony. So we will do a deeper dive on this. We've got the Joint Committee on Pensions, Benefits, and Investments, and we will take this topic up during that point in time where we can spend a lot of time with a lot of people learning more about this, because I know it's a lot of new information. And I apologize we had to have such a short hearing, but we've got a bank bill we've got to get to. So we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 282. Thank you all for being here. And we will open the hearing on House Bill 2152. So thank you all. I'll give you a minute if you need to clear the room. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you all. Okay, we're ready. Thank you, Eileen. You can go ahead and start the brief, and I apologize to the bankers. It's going to be, you're going to have to really talk fast. A lot of information.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Substitute for House Bill 2152 establishes the public money pooled method for securing public monies and makes certain adjustments to the deposit and investment deposit and investment of public monies by financial institutions. Hopefully this time when I say you have my brief in front of you, you will actually have my brief in front of you. But you'll see a list of bullet points that the bill does accomplish. Sections 1 through 3 of the bill would enact new law establishing the public money pooled method of securing governmental deposits. They would become effective on January 1st of 2026. And additionally, the state treasurer would be authorized to adopt rules and regulations necessary to administer and implement those provisions. Section 1 of the bill would require that financial institutions designated as public depositories secure the deposits of one or more governmental units by depositing, pledging, or granting a security interest in a pool of securities to secure the repayment of all public monies deposited in a bank, savings and loan association, or savings bank by such governmental units and not otherwise secured pursuant to law. If at all times the aggregate market value on the pool of securities so deposited is in which a security interest is granted is equal to at least 102% of the amount on deposit that is in excess of the amount insured or guaranteed. So just to translate a little bit, if the bank has $1 million worth of governmental deposits or public monies on deposits and the FDIC guarantees $250,000 of that, then this would pertain to that remaining $750,000 that would not otherwise be secured except for the bank's actions. The bill would require each financial institution to account for all public monies to be secured by the pool of securities as determined at the opening of each business day and the aggregate market value of the pool of securities. The state treasurer may serve as the administrator of the public monies pooled method or may designate a third party, bank, savings and loan association, savings bank, trust company, or other qualified firm, corporation, or association that is authorized to transact business in Kansas to serve as an administrator who would then pick up those duties. Section 2 of the bill establishes the procedure for when the administrator determines that a financial institution participating in that pooled monies method, public monies pooled method, the alliteration is going to kill me, I'm telling you, has experienced a default. First, for each governmental unit, the administrator will determine the amount of the public monies not insured or guaranteed by the FDIC and the amount of public money secured by the pool of securities and provide that information to each governmental unit. The governmental unit is then responsible for verifying the information within 10 business days. The administrator also will then repay each governmental unit for the public monies not insured from the pool of securities. If the amount of the proceeds of the securities is insufficient to cover all the public monies not insured, then the administrator shall pay each governmental unit a prorated amount. The duties of the administrator under this section may be delegated to and performed by a federal deposit insurance agency in the event that the agency is appointed as a liquidator or receiver of any financial institution. Section 3 of the bill provides that upon the request of a governmental unit, a financial institution shall report as of the date of the request the amount of public monies deposited in that financial unit that is not insured or guaranteed by the FDIC by 1, the governmental unit making the request, and 2, all other governmental units and the aggregate market value of the pool of securities deposited. Upon request of a governmental unit, a report shall be provided of the aggregate market value of the pool of securities and an itemized listing of the securities in the pool. Section 4 is a new section of law that would prohibit an investment advisor that executes bids for the investment of public monies on behalf of a governmental unit from engaging in a principal transaction with the governmental unit that is the same or directly related to the issue of securities or financial product for which the investment advisor is providing or has provided advice. The governmental units will not be prohibited from engaging with federally registered investment advisors. Section 5 of the bill would establish a procedure by which an eligible financial institution may file a complaint with the state treasurer. A filed complaint is confidential unless the state treasurer determines that after a preliminary investigation, there is probable cause to believe that the allegations of the complaint. And in such event, the state treasurer will notify the attorney general and the pooled money investment board of any apparent violation of law that has been discovered during the investigation. If a governmental entity has knowingly violated the provisions of KSA 12-1675, 12-1677A, or 12-1677B, then an escalating scale of disciplinary actions shall apply up to and including the assessment of a civil penalty. If the state treasurer finds that no probable cause exists, then the complaint is just dismissed. Section 6 of the bill amends KSA 9-1402 governing the securing of public funds to replace the term municipal corporation or quasi-municipal corporation with governmental unit. Governmental unit is defined as the state or any county, municipality, or any political subdivision of the state. This section is also amended to allow financial institutions to use the pooled method of securities pursuant to Section 1 to secure the deposit of public monies of governmental units. Section 7 amends KSA 12-1675 to provide that in selecting a financial institution for the investment of public monies of a governmental unit, the governmental unit may accept any rate agreed upon by that governmental unit and the financial institution. If a financial institution will make such deposits available to the investing governmental unit at interest rates equal to or greater than the investment rate as defined in KSA 12-1675A subsection G, the governmental unit shall select one or more of such financial institutions for investment. The statute also is amended to require financial institutions to use the public monies pooled method to secure the deposit of all public monies of governmental units pursuant to Section 1. Section 8 amends KSA 12-1677A concerning the municipal investment pool fund to provide that deposits in the fund must be accompanied by a certification to prove compliance with requirements established in KSA 12-1675 subsection C, and a listing of the financial institutions from which the governmental unit requested bids. Section 9 amends KSA 12-1677B to require the investment policy of any governmental unit to include a listing of the financial institutions from which the governmental unit requested bids in the preceding year, an annual portfolio holdings report in a form prescribed by the PMIB, and any fee or cost that the governmental unit is paying for investment advisor services. The bill would also require the PMIB to report annually to the legislature a list of the governmental units that have been approved under the bill. And finally, KSA Section 10 amends KSA 75-4237 pertaining to the PMIB's bank CD program to cap the dollar amount of state monies invested in any one bank at 2.5% of the bank CD program. The bank would also amend current law authorizing the Director of Investments to award the investment account to the requesting bank at the investment rate rather than the market rate as stated in current law. The section also provides that the investment procedures established by the PMIB at an interest rate that is up to 2% less than the highest rate at which state monies can be invested on the open market in investments authorized by KSA 75-4209 for equivalent maturities. Sections 4 through 10 would become effective on July 1st of this year, and the bill passed the House Committee of the Whole 119-4 on March 11th, and that was a lot of information.
That was very technically proficient of you. Yeah, that was a lot of information. Appreciate that.
I have to thank
I know a lot
the
of
KBA
work.
for providing background and, other information to help me create that highly technical brief.
Ton of work went into this. Committee, we've got a lot of proponents, and it's a lot of information. I'm going to let, I think, is it, Alex, do you want to go first? Thank you, Eileen. We're going to carry this, or does the treasurer need to go first? Okay, we need to carry this hearing over into Monday, so just take a breath and listen. So Alex, please. I'm sounding really bossy, but that was a lot of information, and this is a good bill. We just have to understand it.
Of course, Madam Chair. Yes, good morning, committee. Alex Orrell, for the record, Senior Vice President of Government Relations for the KBA. I do want to recognize my colleague Kelly Van Zoll, who is our Vice President of Government Relations and Staff Attorney. And then we also have KBA past Chairman Mark Schifferdecker with GN Bank in Girard, who is on WebEx for some technical questions. We've also worked with our partners over the Community Bankers Association of Kansas, Sean Mitchell. You have his testimony, and been working with BJ Harden and Gavin Kreidler, as well as Tom Pruitt with People's Bank and Trust and McPherson as well. You have their testimony, have been amazing partners working on this. I do want to give a shout out to Eileen for running through that. This is a lot of information, but as the chair said, this is a very good bill, and the simplest way I can explain this is a bill that helps modernize, streamline, make more efficient, and provide the necessary flexibility so that the state of Kansas and local government entities can take state tax dollars, local municipal tax dollars, and reinvest them back into Kansas communities. That's as simple as it gets. That money will roll over through the community. We all believe in shopping local, doing business local, investing local. This is that same economic philosophy. You keep Kansas tax dollars in Kansas, they will roll over through the community and generate new state and local tax revenue. There's been multiple economic studies going back over the last 6 decades on this exact subject as well, and the most recent one being by Fort Hays State University last year. Eileen, fantastic once again. There has been a lot of work put into this. There was an informational hearing last year. On the House side, there was 2 days of interim studies where the interim committee did unanimously and bipartisan recommendations, many of the proposals that are included in this bill. It did pass the House 119-4, and so we do feel strongly about of where we're at. We have worked very closely with the Kansas League of Municipalities, the Kansas Association of Counties, Kansas Association of School Boards, State Treasurer Stephen Johnson on this compromise bill. There were some pieces at the beginning of this legislative session that there was an agreement. There was some opposition. I am proud to report to this committee today that there are no opponents to this, and they're not neutrals either. They're proponents. And so this is a good thing. This is how the process works. You keep stirring it to the best policy comes to the top, and we're very proud of where we are at today. I mean, when you keep public funds in Kansas, you'll reduce capital for, you'll have more capital for businesses looking to expand. You'll have more loans, more state and local income taxes paid, and we can go back to some of the policies of past years where Kansas did a lot better job of investing in the state. I do want to give the Pooled Money Investment Board, who does the investing of the state's dollars, does a fantastic job. Have all the confidence in the world for their team. They just need the necessary flexibility to do what they need to do to move that money back into Kansas. And so, Madam Chair, I just want to say, appreciate you having this hearing, appreciate your service this year, and I'll be happy to stand for questions at the appropriate time.
Can we save our questions to Monday and let Treasurer Johnson come in? I'm not sure he's available on Monday. Welcome to committee. We can give you about 5 minutes, and then we've got to adjourn, because there's a conference committee in here at 10:30.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, honored pages of the chair, and revisers who give all the information you needed. So you're in pretty good shape. Alex said what needed to be said on this. You have a good bill in front of you that does a number of good things. I'll speak briefly to two of them. The collateral pool, I think, is a good step forward. Many states have done it. I've never heard one who said, oh, I wish we didn't do that. And I've heard at least two who said it's the best thing we've done. So our job is about managing the money, but it's really about managing risk, and that affords a way that will do it more efficiently. Many of our communities already do an exceptional job. I don't know that I add value to what they are doing in managing that collateral. Some of our other communities may not have the resources to pay as much attention to it. It is possible we'll be adding some to their risk management, but I think consistently we'll be adding to the efficiency of how it is done. And I think everyone will benefit from that process. We have a lot to figure out to get from here to there. We have not done it yet. Those drafting the bill, and appropriately, Alex gave the shout outs to the brains that were behind that, did the best they could to give us that latitude to say, will we do it in the treasurer's office? Will we contract with someone to do it? We don't know for sure yet. So what that will tell us is that we will have more to do. There may be some things that we want to adjust as we go forward, and but I think that you have written a law that we can work within, and we look forward to any adjustments that we need to do when we go forward. Similarly, on changing the rate for the bank CDs, currently it is set at the commercial paper rate, which I would agree is higher than it needs to be. The current statute says that if we let a CD to a Kansas bank, we set it at the highest rate that we can get in the pooled money, which is that commercial paper rate. I think the risk, given that those CDs are fully collateralized, is less than that, and I think we should price it at something that is less than that. Further, as was spoken, should the legislature give us direction to go beyond that and look at how we best deploy those assets, we'll continue to look forward to working with you and direction of where that needs to go, but appreciate the latitude that this affords, and look forward to questions and what we can continue to build going forward.
Thank you, Treasurer Johnson. Are you available to come back on Monday? Do you know?
Can make that happen.
Okay, we will want to ask you, we'll do first thing, and we'll continue the hearing, and we do have some questions. So, and we have a couple of other conferees. So at this point in time, I'm not going to close this hearing. We'll keep it open until Monday. And I want to thank you all for your attention today. This is a crazy time of the year. We all have other committees to get to. Thank you so much.